A woman stands before the man who betrayed her, not with tears, but with absolute power. Serafina Moretti once sacrificed everything for love. She buried a mafia family, escaped a prearranged marriage, and became an ordinary wife. But when the husband she trusted most cruelly betrayed her, what awakened within her was not pain, but the blood of a queen. Now she returns to the throne, and Adrian Cole is about to understand. There are women you should never lose. Follow this story to the end, like, and comment the name of the city you're watching to let me know how far my story has progressed. The rain came down in sheets the night Serafina Moretti walked away from everything she'd ever known. Not the mafia empire, not the blood money or the armed guards stationed outside her childhood bedroom. She walked away from all of that later, when it mattered less. That first night, at 19, she walked away from her father's office with her hands shaking and her breath coming too fast, the taste of rebellion sharp and metallic on her tongue. "You'll marry Lucienne Varelli in the spring." Her father hadn't looked up from his desk when he said it. Giovanni Moretti never looked up when he delivered verdicts. The families have agreed. It's done. She'd stood there in the doorway, her spine straight the way he'd taught her, her face blank the way her mother never managed. "And if I refuse?" That made him look up. His eyes were dark, flat, the same eyes she saw in the mirror every morning. "You won't." But she did. 3 months later, she was enrolled at Ashford University under the name Sarah Vincent, living in a cramped dormitory that smelled like old carpet and someone else's laundry detergent. The scholarship she didn't need sat framed on her desk, a prop, really, but a convincing one. She'd cut her hair shorter, bought clothes from thrift stores, learned to blend in with girls who complained about student loans and part-time jobs, who had no idea what it meant to have blood under your fingernails that wasn't your own. She thought she'd escaped. She thought wrong, but she wouldn't know that for years. Adrian Cole noticed her in Economics 201, winter semester. She remembered the exact moment because she'd been staring out the window, watching snow fall on the quad, thinking about how her father used to say snow covered everything but changed nothing. The dirt was still there underneath. You just couldn't see it for a while. "You always look like you're somewhere else." She turned. He was leaning back in the seat beside her, all-American confidence and easy smile. Blonde hair that looked professionally careless, blue eyes that probably got him out of traffic tickets. The kind of handsome that knew it was handsome but pretended otherwise. "Maybe I am," she said. "Somewhere better than macroeconomic theory?" "Everywhere is better than macroeconomic theory." He laughed. It was a good laugh, genuine and unguarded. She decided right then that she liked him, which was a mistake, but she was 19 and trying very hard to be someone else. Someone who made mistakes. Someone who laughed at boys' jokes and went to parties and didn't know how to field strip a Glock in under 30 seconds. "Adrian Cole." He held out his hand. She took it. His palm was warm, uncalloused, safe. "Sarah Vincent." The lie came easily. She'd been practicing it for months. They got coffee after class. Then they got coffee again. Then it wasn't just coffee. It was late-night diners and study sessions that devolved into arguments about philosophy. And eventually, inevitably, it was his mouth on hers in the stairwell of her dorm building, tasting like cinnamon gum and something electric she didn't have a name for. "I'm falling for you," he told her 6 weeks in, his forehead pressed against hers, his breath fogging in the February cold. She should have run. She should have called her father's people, had them extract her quietly, disappeared back into the world she came from. Instead, she kissed him and whispered, "Me too." That was her first real mistake. Everything else followed like dominoes falling in slow motion. They dated through the spring. She met his parents, William and Margaret Cole, old money from Connecticut, the kind of people who summered in the Hamptons and knew which fork to use without thinking about it. They liked her immediately, which felt like swallowing glass. Margaret kept touching her arm, calling her dear, asking about her family in that polite way that meant she'd already decided Sarah came from nothing, and that was fine. How progressive, how modern. "She's lovely," Margaret told Adrian when she thought Sarah couldn't hear. "A bit mysterious, but that's charming at her age. She'll grow out of it." Sarah smiled and said nothing. She'd gotten good at smiling and saying nothing. Adrian graduated that spring with a degree in business and a job offer from a consulting firm in the city. She had another year left, but he waited. He got an apartment. He talked about their future like it was a foregone conclusion, and she let him because some part of her, the part that was still 19 and stupid and desperate to be normal, wanted to believe it could work. "Move in with me," he said one night, tangled in her dorm room sheets. "After you graduate, we'll get a place together. Something with big windows and a kitchen you can actually turn around in." "Adrian, I'm serious." He propped himself up on one elbow, his face earnest in the dark. "I love you, Sarah. I want to build a life with you." The words lodged in her throat. "I'm not who you think I am. My real name is Serafina Moretti. My father kills people. I was supposed to marry a man who makes your worst nightmares look like bedtime stories. What came out instead was, okay." "Yeah? Yeah." He kissed her like she'd given him the world. Maybe she had. Maybe she'd given him a world that never existed in the first place. She graduated summa cum laude. Her father didn't come to the ceremony. She hadn't invited him. She hadn't spoken to him in almost 2 years, and the silence between them was its own kind of language. He knew where she was. She knew he was letting her pretend, for now, that she'd actually gotten away. The apartment Adrian found had big windows, just like he'd promised. It was on the 4th floor of a converted brownstone in a neighborhood where people jogged in the mornings and argued about recycling in the elevator. Sarah learned to cook pasta without burning it. She got a job at an art gallery that paid almost nothing but looked good on paper. She went to dinner parties with Adrian's colleagues and laughed at their jokes and never, ever mentioned that she could recognize money laundering schemes from across a room. "You're so quiet at these things," Adrian said one night, loosening his tie as they rode the elevator up. "You barely said 10 words all night." "I'm just tired." "You're always tired lately." He wasn't looking at her. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine." It wasn't fine. Nothing about it was fine. She was walking around in someone else's skin, speaking someone else's lines, and the weight of it was starting to crack her ribs from the inside. But she smiled and kissed his cheek and told herself that this was what normal felt like. Normal was supposed to be hard. He proposed on a Saturday in October, 3 years after they'd met. They were walking through Central Park, leaves crunching under their feet, his hand warm around hers. He stopped by the Bethesda fountain, and she knew what was coming before he dropped to one knee because she'd been trained since childhood to read people's intentions 3 moves ahead. "Sarah Vincent," he said, the ring box open in his palm, "will you marry me?" She should have said no. She should have told him the truth right there. Let him hate her. Let him walk away clean. Instead, she looked at his hopeful face and thought about the girl she used to be, the one who'd walked away from her father's office with her hands shaking. And she said yes. They got married in the spring, small ceremony, just his family and a few friends, no one from her side. She told him her parents were dead, which wasn't true, but it was easier than explaining why Giovanni Moretti couldn't be bothered to watch his daughter pledge herself to a man he'd never approved. On their wedding night, Adrian carried her over the threshold of their apartment like he was in a movie, and she laughed because it seemed like the thing to do. He made love to her with the lights on, gentle and reverent, calling her his wife in a voice thick with emotion. She stared at the ceiling and wondered when the bill would come due. It took 4 years. 4 years of playing house. 4 years of gallery openings and dinner parties and learning to fake interest in his work stories. 4 years of being Sarah Cole, devoted wife, mystery solved, edges smoothed down to something manageable. She was good at it. Better than she'd expected. She learned to grocery shop and remember his mother's birthday and nod sympathetically when he complained about his boss. She learned to make her body respond to his touch, even when her mind was somewhere else, usually back in her father's office, or in the training room where she'd learned to shoot, or in the chapel where she'd been fitted for a wedding dress meant for Lucien Virelli. She didn't think about Lucien often. When she did, it was abstract, clinical. He was a ghost from a life she'd abandoned. She'd heard rumors, of course. Impossible not to when you knew where to look. Lucien Virelli had consolidated power in the years since her disappearance. The Virelli family controlled half the city now, and Lucien controlled the Virelli family with an iron fist wrapped in expensive suits. She wondered sometimes if he hated her for running. She wondered if he thought about her at all. Mostly, she tried not to wonder about anything. The cracks started small. Adrian working late. Adrian on his phone during dinner, texting someone whose name he never mentioned. Adrian coming home smelling like perfume that wasn't hers, making excuses that didn't quite add up. She noticed. Of course she noticed. She'd been trained to notice everything, the slight shift in someone's posture that meant they were lying. the micro-expression that betrayed guilt, the pattern break that signaled danger. But she didn't say anything. Not at first. She told herself it was paranoia. She told herself she was seeing threats where there were none because she'd been raised in a world where everyone was a potential enemy. She told herself that normal marriages had rough patches, that normal people worked through them. She told herself a lot of lies that spring. The truth came in June, on a Tuesday that started like any other. She was supposed to be at the gallery until 6, but they'd had a pipe burst in the bathroom, so they closed early. She came home at 3 in the afternoon, her shoes in her hand because her feet hurt, her mind on whether they had anything decent for dinner or if she'd need to order in. She heard them before she saw them. The bedroom door was half open, Adrian's voice low and urgent, a woman's laugh, breathy and satisfied. Sarah stopped in the hallway. Her heart didn't race, her hands didn't shake. She felt nothing at all, which was worse somehow. Like she'd been waiting for this moment for so long that when it finally arrived, it was almost a relief. She could have walked in, could have made a scene, could have done what a normal wife would do, scream, cry, throw things. Instead, she turned around, walked back out of the apartment, and went to a coffee shop 3 blocks away. She ordered an espresso and sat by the window watching people pass by, thinking about absolutely nothing. It took her 2 hours to feel anything. When it came, it wasn't sadness. It wasn't even anger, not really. It was clarity. She'd spent 4 years pretending to be someone she wasn't, and the man she'd done it for couldn't even be bothered to respect the illusion. He'd taken her devotion, her sacrifice, and treated it like something disposable, something he could betray in their own bed on a Tuesday afternoon because he was bored or restless, or because he simply could. She went back to the apartment at 8. The woman was gone. Adrian was in the kitchen cooking pasta, completely at ease. He looked up when she walked in and smiled. "Hey babe, you're home late." She set her purse down carefully. "Pipe burst at the gallery. We closed early." "That sucks." "Want some dinner? I made your favorite." Your favorite. Like he knew her. Like he'd ever known her. "I'm not hungry." She walked past him to the bedroom, saw the sheets still rumpled, smelled the ghost of unfamiliar perfume. "Actually, I need to ask you something." He appeared in the doorway, wooden spoon in hand, oblivious. "What's up? Are you seeing someone else?" She watched his face carefully, the micro-expression of guilt, the flash of panic, the quick calculation of how much to admit. "What? No. Sarah, where's this coming from?" "I came home early today, around 3. His face went pale. "Good. At least he had the decency for that." "I can explain." "Don't." Her voice was flat, empty. "Don't insult me by explaining. It didn't mean anything. It was a mistake, okay? It won't happen again." "You're right. It won't." "Sarah, please. I love you. We can work through this." She almost laughed. "No, we can't. Don't be dramatic. Every marriage goes through rough patches. We just need to—" "I want a divorce." The words came out clean, final. She'd been thinking them for 2 hours, but saying them out loud made them real in a way that thinking never could. Adrian stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. "You don't mean that." "I've never meant anything more in my life." "Sarah, come on. Let's just talk about this. Let's be rational." Rational? She wanted to laugh again. There was nothing rational about any of this. She'd thrown away her entire life for a man who'd betrayed her in their own bed, and he wanted to be rational. "I'll have my lawyer contact you tomorrow," she said quietly. "I'll stay in a hotel tonight. I'll come back for my things when you're at work." "Your lawyer?" He said it like the concept was absurd. "Sarah, you're not thinking clearly. You're upset, I get it, but this is insane. We can fix this." "There's nothing to fix." She pulled her suitcase out of the closet, started throwing clothes into it without looking at him. "We're done." "You can't just leave. Where are you going to go? You don't have anywhere." She turned on him then, and something in her face made him take a step back. "You have no idea what I have." "What's that supposed to mean?" She didn't answer. She finished packing in silence, grabbed her purse, and walked out of the apartment without looking back. Behind her, Adrian called her name, his voice edging toward panic. "Sarah! Sarah, come back here. We need to talk about this. You can't just walk away from 4 years of marriage." She kept walking. In the elevator, her phone rang. She looked at the screen. "Adrian." She declined the call. He called again. She turned off her phone. The hotel was expensive, anonymous. She checked in under her real name for the first time in 6 years. The clerk didn't blink at Serafina Moretti, just handed her a key card and asked if she needed help with her bag. "I'm fine," she said. She wasn't fine. She was a lot of things, but fine wasn't one of them. In the room, she sat on the edge of the bed and stared at her hands. They weren't shaking. They should have been shaking. She'd just blown up her entire life, and her hands were steady as stone. She thought about calling someone. She had friends. Well, Sarah Vincent had friends. Serafina Moretti had allies, which wasn't the same thing. Instead, she pulled out her laptop and did something she'd been avoiding for 6 years. She opened an encrypted browser, navigated to a secure email address she'd memorized but never used, and typed 2 words. "I'm ready." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The response came 4 minutes later. "Welcome home, Serafina. Your father will be pleased." She closed the laptop and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. She didn't cry. She didn't feel relieved or regretful or anything at all, really. She just felt like herself for the first time in 6 years. The divorce papers were filed the next morning. Adrian contested them, of course. He sent flowers to the hotel. He showed up at the gallery, causing a scene until security escorted him out. He called and texted and emailed, cycling through anger and desperation, and finally, when nothing else worked, threats. "You think you can just walk away from me? You think you're better than this? Than us?" She didn't respond. She had lawyers for that now, very good lawyers, the kind who made problems disappear quickly and quietly. Within a week, Adrian had signed the papers. She suspected someone had explained to him that fighting was a bad idea. She didn't ask who. She didn't need to. 2 weeks after she'd walked out of their apartment, Serafina Moretti walked into her father's house for the first time in 6 years. It hadn't changed. Same marble floors, same uncomfortable furniture, same armed guards pretending to be staff. Giovanni was in his office, exactly where she'd left him, sitting behind his desk like a king on a throne. He looked up when she walked in. His face betrayed nothing. "Serafina." "Father." "You look well." "Thank you." They stared at each other across 6 years of silence. Finally, Giovanni gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Sit." She sat. "You've come back?" "I have." "Why?" She could have lied. Could have told him she'd missed him, missed the family, missed the life. But Giovanni Moretti hadn't built an empire by being stupid, and she was his daughter. "Because I was wrong," she said simply. "I thought I could be someone else. I was wrong." He nodded slowly. "And the boy?" "Gone." "You loved him." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "I thought I did. And now I know better." Something that might have been approval flickered in Giovanni's eyes. "Lucien Virelli has not married." Her spine stiffened. "Father, he's been waiting for you. That's not possible. It's been 6 years. 6 years during which he's refused every match proposed to him. 6 years during which he's asked me once a year on your birthday if you were ready to come home." Giovanni leaned back in his chair. "He's a patient man. It's one of his better qualities." Serafina's throat was tight. "I ran away from an arranged marriage once. I won't be forced into it." "You won't be forced into anything," her father's voice was sharp. "But you should meet with him. You owe him that much." "I don't owe him anything. You owe him an explanation. You disappeared 3 months before your wedding, Serafina. You embarrassed him. You embarrassed both our families. The least you can do is look him in the eye and tell him why." She wanted to argue, but her father was right, and they both knew it. "Fine, I'll meet with him." "Good, I'll arrange it." She stood to leave, but Giovanni's voice stopped her at the door. "Serafina," she turned. "I'm glad you're home." It was the closest thing to affection he'd ever given her. She didn't know what to do with it, so she just nodded and left. The meeting was set for Friday night. Neutral Ground, an upscale restaurant that Lucien owned but didn't frequent. Serafina arrived 10 minutes early because she'd been trained never to give anyone the tactical advantage of making her wait. Lucien was already there. She recognized him immediately, even though 6 years had changed him. He'd been handsome at 25, in a sharp-edged, dangerous way. At 31, he was something else entirely. The suit was custom, black, perfectly tailored. His dark hair was shorter than she remembered, touched with gray at the temples that shouldn't have been attractive but was. His face was harder, the softness of youth burned away by whatever he'd done to claw his way to the top of the city's underworld. He stood when she approached. Good manners. She remembered that about him, the way he'd been raised to be a gentleman even while he was being trained to kill. Serafina. Her real name in his mouth sounded foreign. You look beautiful. Lucien. She sat down before he could pull out her chair. A small power play. He noticed she could tell by the slight curve of his mouth. You look well. I survive. He sat across from her, his movements controlled, economical. Thank you for agreeing to meet. My father insisted. Of course he did. His eyes were dark, unreadable. You've been gone a long time. 6 years. 6 years, 2 months, and 17 days. But who's counting? She didn't know if he was joking. His face gave nothing away. The waiter came, poured wine, took their orders, and disappeared. Serafina took a sip of her wine and waited. This was his meeting. Let him lead. I'm not going to ask where you've been, Lucien said finally. I know where you've been, who you've been with, what you've been doing. Ice slid down her spine. You've been watching me. I've been aware of you. There's a difference. That's a violation of… Of what? Our engagement? His voice was soft, dangerous. The engagement you ran away from without a word? The engagement that was supposed to unite our families, strengthen our position, secure our future? That engagement? She met his eyes steadily. I was 19. I didn't want to marry a stranger. So you married a different stranger instead. He leaned back, his expression unreadable. How did that work out for you? The anger came fast and hot, surprising her. You have no right. I have every right. He didn't raise his voice, but the words landed like bullets. You were mine, Serafina. You were promised to me, and you threw it away for what? A boy who didn't even know your real name? A boy who betrayed you the second you let your guard down? How do you know about that? I know everything about you. I've known everything about you since the day you disappeared. He took a sip of his wine, calm, controlled. Did you really think I'd just let you go? That I'd move on and forget? You were supposed to be my wife, my partner, my equal, and you chose him instead. I chose myself. No. Lucien's eyes were hard. You chose a fantasy. You chose to play pretend in a world that was never going to accept you. And when it all fell apart, you came running back home. I didn't come running anywhere. I walked away. From him. But you came back to this, to us. He gestured vaguely at the restaurant, the world beyond it. Because this is who you are, Serafina. You can cut your hair and change your name and pretend to be normal, but the blood in your veins doesn't lie. She wanted to throw her wine in his face. She wanted to walk out. She wanted to prove him wrong, but she couldn't, because he was right. What do you want from me, Lucien? What I've always wanted. He leaned forward, his eyes locked on hers. Marry me. She almost laughed. You can't be serious. I'm always serious. It's been 6 years. You can't possibly still want… I've waited 6 years. I can wait longer if I need to. But I won't wait forever. His voice was quiet, intense. You're back now. You've realized that the life you tried to build out there was built on sand. You're ready to be who you were always meant to be. So marry me. Honor the agreement our fathers made. Stand beside me the way you were always supposed to. And if I say no, then you say no. I won't force you. His smile was thin, dangerous. But you won't say no. You seem very sure of that. I am. Because you didn't come back here to hide, Serafina. You came back here to reclaim what's yours, and what's yours includes me. The waiter brought their food. They ate in silence, the tension between them thick enough to cut. Serafina's mind was racing. Lucien was offering her everything she'd run away from 6 years ago. Power, position, a throne at the top of a bloody empire. 6 years ago, she'd wanted freedom. She'd wanted love. She'd wanted normal. Now she knew better. Normal was a lie people told themselves to feel safe. Love was a weapon that could be used against you. Freedom was an illusion for people who didn't understand that the cage was inside you, not outside. But power? Power was real. Power was something you could hold in your hands and wield like a blade. Power meant no one could ever hurt you again. I need time to think, she said finally. Lucien nodded. Take all the time you need. But Serafina? Yes? Don't take too long. The city is changing. New players are trying to move in. We need to show a united front. We need to show strength. He reached across the table, his hand covering hers. His palm was warm, his grip firm. We need each other. She looked down at their joined hands. 6 years ago, the thought of marrying Lucien Virelli had terrified her. Now it felt like the only move that made sense. I'll give you my answer in a week, she said. A week. He released her hand, sat back. I'll take it. They finished dinner. Lucien paid. He walked her to her car, a sleek black sedan that Giovanni had provided, and opened the door for her. It's good to have you back, he said quietly. I've missed you. She didn't know how to respond to that, so she didn't. She just got in the car and drove away, watching him in the rearview mirror until he disappeared. The week passed in a blur. She moved back into her father's house, into her old room that hadn't changed at all. Her mother appeared at dinner on Tuesday, thin and elegant and distant as always, kissing Serafina's cheek like she'd been gone for a weekend instead of 6 years. Welcome home, darling. I hope you've learned your lesson. Serafina smiled and said nothing. She spent the days reacquainting herself with the family business, sitting in on meetings, listening to her father negotiate deals that involved construction contracts and offshore accounts and subtle threats delivered in boardrooms instead of back alleys. Remembering how all of this worked, remembering who she used to be before she'd tried to be someone else. On Friday night, she knocked on her father's office door. Come in. She walked in, closed the door behind her. Giovanni looked up from his desk, his expression neutral. I've made my decision, she said. And? I'll marry Lucien. Her father's face didn't change, but she saw the satisfaction in his eyes. Good. I'll make the arrangements. I have conditions. Now Giovanni raised an eyebrow. Oh? This won't be a traditional marriage. I won't be some mafia wife who stays home and throws parties. I want in. Full partnership. Equal say in family business decisions. That's for you and Lucien to negotiate. I'm telling you first, if he can't agree to those terms, the wedding is off. Giovanni studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. You've grown up, Serafina. I had to. Yes, you did. He paused. I'm sorry for that. It was the closest thing to an apology she'd ever get from him. She took it. When should we schedule the wedding? Soon. Lucien was right. We need to show strength. I'll speak to him tomorrow. We'll aim for 3 weeks from now. 3 weeks. It felt impossibly fast and somehow not fast enough. She left her father's office and went to her room, pulled out her phone, and stared at Adrian's number. He'd stopped calling after the first week, once the lawyers had made it clear that fighting was pointless. She wondered what he was doing now, if he missed her, if he regretted it. She wondered if she cared. She deleted his number and went to bed. The wedding was planned with military precision. Guest list carefully curated, only the most important families, the most crucial allies. Venue secured, an estate outside the city, private, heavily guarded. Dress selected, white silk, elegant, appropriate for a queen. Serafina went through the motions with detached efficiency. This wasn't like the first time, when she'd been young and terrified and planning her escape. This time, she knew exactly what she was walking into. This time, she was choosing it. Lucien met with her 3 times before the wedding. Once to discuss business terms, he agreed to her conditions without hesitation, which surprised her. Once to discuss the ceremony itself, brief, he wanted it over with so they could get to work. Once to discuss expectations. I won't love you, she told him bluntly during that 3rd meeting. I can respect you, I can work with you, I can be loyal, but I can't love you. Lucien smiled. I don't need your love, Serafina. I need your mind and your strength and your willingness to do what needs to be done. Everything else is negotiable. And if I want separate bedrooms, then we'll have separate bedrooms. And if I change my mind later, then we'll renegotiate. He leaned forward, his expression serious. I'm not your ex-husband. I won't pressure you for something you're not ready to give. This is a partnership, not a prison. She believed him. That was the strange part. She actually believed him. The wedding was on a Saturday in July. Serafina wore the white dress and walked down an aisle lined with people who controlled half the city's illegal operations. Her father gave her away. Lucien waited at the altar, looking every inch the kingpin he was. The ceremony was brief, traditional. She spoke her vows in a steady voice, looking Lucien in the eye as she promised to honor and respect him. He did the same. They exchanged rings, platinum, simple, expensive. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Lucien leaned in and kissed her cheek instead. A gesture of respect, a promise that he meant what he'd said about not pressuring her. The reception was lavish, the kind of display meant to send a message. The Moretti and Varelli families were united now. Anyone who wanted to challenge them would have to go through both. Serafina moved through it all like a ghost, smiling and accepting congratulations and dancing with Lucien when the time came. His hand on her waist was firm, but not possessive. His eyes on her face were thoughtful, calculating. "You're thinking about him," he said quietly as they swayed to the music. "Who?" "Your ex-husband. You're wondering if he heard about this, if he knows you've remarried." She should have denied it. Instead, she said, "Yes." "Good. He should know. He should understand what he lost." "It doesn't matter." "It matters." Lucien pulled her slightly closer, his voice dropping. "Because in 3 weeks, I'm hosting a gala. Private, exclusive. The most powerful people in the city will be there, and I'm going to make sure Adrian Cole gets an invitation." Her heart stopped. "Why?" "Because you need closure, and because he needs to see exactly who you really are." Lucien's smile was cold, predatory. "He thought you were small, manageable, disposable. Let's show him how wrong he was." She should have said no. Should have told Lucien it was petty, unnecessary, beneath them both. But the part of her that was still wounded, still angry, still burning with the humiliation of being betrayed in her own bed, that part whispered yes. "Invite him," she said quietly. Lucien's smile widened. "With pleasure." The music swelled, they danced, and Serafina Moretti Varelli began to plan exactly how she would destroy the man who thought he could break her. But first, she would let him come to her. The invitation went out on a Monday morning, hand-delivered by a courier in a black suit who didn't smile and didn't wait for a response. Adrian Cole opened the heavy cream envelope at his desk, his coffee going cold beside his keyboard, and read the embossed text 3 times before his brain could process what it was saying. "Mr. Lucien Varelli requests the honor of your presence at a private gala celebrating recent union and prosperity. Saturday, August 15th, 8 o'clock, the Velmont Estate. Black tie required. There was no RSVP card, no +1 option. Just the invitation and a smaller card tucked inside with a handwritten note in elegant script. Your attendance is expected." Adrian's hand started shaking. He set the invitation down carefully, like it might explode, and stared at it. Lucien Varelli. The name had been in the news lately. Business acquisitions, charity donations, the kind of legitimate front that barely concealed what everyone knew he really was. Mafia. Old money crime family. The kind of man who smiled at fundraisers and had people killed before breakfast. Why the hell would Lucien Varelli invite him to anything? Adrian pulled out his phone, typed Lucien Varelli into the search bar, and started scrolling. Most of it was society page garbage. Photos from galas, mentions of real estate deals, carefully worded articles that danced around what he actually did for a living. But then Adrian found it, buried in a lifestyle blog post from 3 weeks ago. Lucien Varelli, 31, wed Serafina Moretti, 25, in a private ceremony at the Hillcrest Estate. The union joins 2 of the city's most prominent families. There was a photo. Lucien in a perfect tuxedo, dark and dangerous and completely at ease. And beside him, in white silk that probably cost more than Adrian's car, was Sarah. Except it wasn't Sarah. Not the Sarah he'd known. This woman held herself like a blade, spine straight, chin up, eyes sharp enough to cut. Her hair was longer, styled in a way that screamed money. Her smile was polite and empty, and nothing like the soft, uncertain smile he remembered. The caption identified her as Serafina Moretti. Adrian read it again. Moretti. Not Vincent. Moretti. He pulled up a new search. Serafina Moretti. The results made his stomach drop. Giovanni Moretti's daughter. Disappeared 6 years ago under mysterious circumstances. rumored engagement to Lucienne Varelli called off. And now, apparently back and married to the man she'd run away from, his Sarah. His quiet, mysterious Sarah who'd worked at an art gallery and cooked pasta and never talked about her family. That Sarah was the daughter of one of the most powerful crime bosses in the city. His coffee was definitely cold now. Adrian pushed it away, his mind racing. She'd lied to him. Their entire relationship had been built on lies. She wasn't some scholarship kid from nowhere. She was mafia royalty slumming it in the real world, and he'd been too stupid to see it. And now she'd married Lucienne Varelli, and Lucienne Varelli was inviting him to a gala. This wasn't an invitation. It was a summons. Adrian should have thrown it away, should have ignored it, should have done anything except what he did, which was call his assistant and tell her to clear his schedule for Saturday night. Because beneath the fear and the shock and the anger, there was something else. Curiosity. A sick, twisted need to see her again, to understand what the hell had happened, to know if any of it had been real. He told himself he was going to get closure. He told himself he was going because refusing would be cowardly. He was lying to himself, but he'd gotten good at that. The week crawled by. Adrian went to work, sat through meetings, smiled at clients, and the whole time his brain was stuck on Saturday night. What would he say to her? What would she say to him? Would she even acknowledge him, or would he just be another face in the crowd, there to bear witness to her new life? By Friday, he'd changed his mind 6 times about going. By Saturday afternoon, he was standing in his apartment in his underwear, staring at the tuxedo hanging on his closet door, wondering what the hell he was doing. His phone buzzed. Text from Marcus, his college roommate, and the closest thing he had to a best friend. Drinks tonight? Haven't seen you in weeks. Adrian typed back, can't. Got a thing. What kind of thing? Just a thing. You're being weird. Everything okay? No. Nothing was okay. His ex-wife was actually mafia royalty. She'd lied to him about everything, and he was about to walk into a room full of criminals to see her on the arm of a man who probably had a body count. Yeah, man. All good. Catch up next week. He put the phone down and started getting dressed. The Velmont estate was 40 minutes outside the city, tucked away behind gates and walls and security that looked polite but scanned him with eyes that missed nothing. Adrian gave his name to a man with an earpiece and a bulge under his jacket, and after a tense moment where he was certain they were going to turn him away, the gates opened. The driveway was lined with luxury cars. Bentleys, Maseratis, a few vehicles Adrian couldn't even identify. He parked his Audi between a Rolls-Royce and a Tesla and felt immediately out of his depth. The estate itself was massive, old money architecture, all marble and columns, and the kind of excessive wealth that didn't need to announce itself because everyone already knew. Adrian walked up the steps, gave his invitation to another security guard, and stepped inside. The ballroom was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, women in gowns that cost more than his rent, and men in tuxedos that fit like they'd been sewn directly onto their bodies. A string quartet played in the corner. Waiters circulated with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres that Adrian couldn't pronounce. He grabbed a champagne flute just to have something to do with his hands and tried to blend in. It didn't work. He could feel eyes on him, assessing, dismissing. These people knew their own. They could smell an outsider. Adrian Cole. He turned. The man approaching was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He wore his tuxedo like armor. I'm sorry, have we met? Giovanni Moretti. The man offered his hand. Adrian shook it automatically, his brain screaming danger, danger, danger. You were married to my daughter. Adrian's mouth went dry. Mr. Moretti, I didn't realize, that she was my daughter? Yes, I gathered that. Giovanni's smile sharpened. She was very good at pretending to be someone else. One of her many talents. I'm not sure why I'm here. Aren't you? Giovanni gestured vaguely at the room. You're here because Lucienne invited you, and Lucienne invited you because my daughter asked him to. And my daughter asked him to because she has unfinished business with you. Adrian's heart was hammering. What kind of business? That's between you and her. But a word of advice, Mr. Cole. Giovanni leaned in slightly, his voice dropping. My daughter is not the woman you married. That woman was a fantasy. The woman here tonight is real, and she is very, very dangerous. So when you speak to her, I suggest you choose your words carefully. He walked away before Adrian could respond, disappearing into the crowd like smoke. Adrian downed his champagne in one gulp and grabbed another from a passing waiter. His hands were shaking again. This was insane. He should leave. He should walk out right now and never look back. Then he saw her. She was on the far side of the room, standing beside Lucien Varelli, and the sight of her punched all the air out of Adrian's lungs. She wore black, a gown that was elegant and severe and made her look like she could kill someone without breaking a sweat. Her hair was up, exposing the line of her neck, the sharp angle of her jaw. Diamond earrings caught the light. Her hand rested on Lucien's arm with casual ownership. She was laughing at something someone said, her head tilted back slightly, and Adrian felt something twist in his chest because he'd never seen her laugh like that. Not in 4 years of marriage, not once. As if she could feel him watching, Serafina turned her head and looked directly at him. Her smile didn't falter. Her eyes didn't widen. She just looked at him with the kind of cool assessment someone might give a piece of furniture they were deciding whether to keep or throw away. Then she said something to Lucien, squeezed his arm, and started walking toward Adrian. Every instinct screamed at him to run. He stayed frozen in place, watching her approach, champagne flute gripped so tight he was surprised it didn't shatter. She stopped 3 feet away, close enough to speak quietly, far enough to maintain distance. "Adrian, you came." Her voice was different. Same pitch, same tone, but there was steel underneath now. Authority, like she'd been playing a part before and had finally stopped. "Sarah." The name came out strangled. "Serafina," she corrected gently. Sarah was someone else. Someone who doesn't exist anymore. "Right, Serafina." He couldn't stop staring at her. "You lied to me." "Yes?" "About everything." "Not everything, but most things, yes." "Why?" She tilted her head, considering. "Because I wanted to be normal. Because I was 19 and stupid and thought I could run away from who I was." A pause. "Because I thought love would be enough to make me someone different." And was it? Enough? Her smile was sad, sharp. "You tell me, Adrian. Was our love enough?" The question landed like a slap. He flinched. "That's not fair. That's... No? You want to talk about fair?" Her voice stayed quiet, controlled, but he could hear the edge in it. "I gave you 4 years. I gave you everything I had. I buried who I was, what I came from, all of it. I played the perfect wife. I learned to cook your favorite meals and laugh at your colleagues' jokes and pretend I didn't notice when you started fucking your secretary. She wasn't my secretary. I don't care what her job title was." Serafina's eyes were cold, flat. "You betrayed me. In our bed. On a Tuesday afternoon because you thought I was too small and too devoted and too pathetic to ever leave you. I made a mistake. I tried to apologize. You tried to manipulate me into staying. There's a difference." She took a step closer. Adrian could smell her perfume now, something expensive and unfamiliar. "But I'm not angry anymore, Adrian. I was for a while. Then I realized something." "What?" "You did me a favor. You showed me that the life I was trying to build was built on sand. You reminded me who I really am, so thank you." She raised her champagne flute in a mock toast. "Truly, I wouldn't be here without you." Adrian's face was burning. Around them, conversations continued, but he could feel eyes on them. People watching, listening. "Is that why I'm here? So you can humiliate me?" "Humiliate you?" Serafina looked genuinely puzzled. "Adrian, you humiliated yourself. I'm just giving you the opportunity to see the consequences." "What consequences?" She smiled. It was the most terrifying thing he'd ever seen. "Look around. Really look. What do you see?" He looked. The room full of wealthy, powerful people. The security guards stationed at every exit. The deference everyone showed to Serafina and Lucien as they moved through the crowd. "I see criminals," he said quietly. "You see power," Serafina corrected. "You see the people who actually run this city. Politicians, judges, business owners, everyone who matters. And they're all here because my husband and I invited them. Because when we speak, they listen. Your husband, you married him." "I did." "Do you love him?" "I respect him. I trust him. I work with him as an equal partner." She paused. He would never betray me in our bed with someone half his age because he was bored. The words hit like bullets. Adrian felt his face go white. That's not what... She was 28. I don't care how old she was. You made a choice. You chose her over me, and now you get to live with that choice while I live with mine. Serafina gestured at the ballroom, at Lucien watching them from across the room, at the empire spread out before her. I'd say I got the better deal. Adrian couldn't breathe, couldn't think. You're insane, you know that? This whole thing, your family, this life, it's insane. Maybe, but it's honest. No one here pretends to be something they're not. No one lies about who they are or where they come from or what they want. Her eyes locked on his. Can you say the same? What's that supposed to mean? It means you fell in love with a lie because the truth, that you were marrying up, that you'd found a woman who could have bought and sold you 100 times over, would have damaged your ego. It means you convinced yourself I was lucky to have you because admitting the opposite was too much for your pride to handle. That's not true, isn't it? You never asked about my family, Adrian, never pushed when I deflected. You were happy to believe I came from nothing because it made you feel important, generous, like you were saving me from something. Serafina's voice was almost pitying now. But I was never the one who needed saving. Someone cleared their throat behind her. Adrian looked up to see Lucien Varelli approaching, moving with the kind of controlled grace that made it clear he knew exactly how dangerous he was. Darling, Lucien said, his hand settling on the small of Serafina's back, possessive but not controlling. You've been monopolizing our guest. Just catching up. Serafina's face softened when she looked at Lucien. Not love exactly, but something like partnership, understanding. Adrian was just leaving. Was I? Adrian heard himself say. Lucien smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. I think that would be best. But before you go, I wanted to thank you personally. Thank me? For being exactly who you are. For showing Serafina that the world she was trying to build with you was a house of cards. Lucien's hand tightened slightly on Serafina's back. She's where she belongs now, with me. Running an empire instead of running from one. You're welcome to her, Adrian spat, anger finally breaking through the shock. She's a liar, a fraud. Everything about her is fake. Everything about Sarah Vincent was fake, Lucien agreed. But Serafina Moretti Varelli is very, very real. And she's mine. Lucien, Serafina's voice held a warning. He's not worth it. You're right, he's not. Lucien turned to Adrian, his smile gone, his face cold. You have 60 seconds to leave this property. If you're still here after that, my security will remove you, and they won't be gentle. Adrian wanted to fight. Wanted to say something cutting, something that would hurt her the way she'd hurt him. But the look in Lucien's eyes made it very clear that fighting was a bad idea. He set down his champagne flute, straightened his bow tie, and looked at Serafina one last time. I hope you're happy, he said quietly. I am. She didn't hesitate, didn't blink. Happier than I ever was with you. That was it. The final knife. Adrian turned and walked toward the exit, feeling every eye in the room on his back. The security guard held the door open, his expression carefully blank. Adrian stepped out into the night air, his chest tight, his eyes burning. Behind him, he heard laughter. Music. The party continuing like he'd never been there at all. He made it to his car before the shaking started. Made it halfway down the driveway before he had to pull over and grip the steering wheel until his knuckles went white. Made it home before the full weight of what had just happened crashed down on him. He'd lost her. Not just lost her. He'd never really had her in the first place. The woman he'd married was a ghost, a performance, a role she'd played until she got tired of playing it, and now she was someone else entirely, someone powerful and dangerous and completely beyond his reach. Adrian sat in his dark apartment, still in his tuxedo, and stared at nothing. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He should have ignored it. Instead, he opened the message. Your employment at Morrison Consulting has been terminated, effective immediately. Your severance package and final paycheck will be mailed to your address of record. Do not attempt to contact the office or any current employees. This decision is final. Adrian read it 3 times. Then he called his boss. Voicemail. He called his direct supervisor. Voicemail. He called HR. Disconnected number. Another text came through. Different number. Your lease at 447 Park Avenue, Unit 4B, will not be renewed. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. Please coordinate with building management for move-out procedures. Then another. Your membership at Eastside Athletic Club has been revoked due to violation of membership terms. Your access card has been deactivated. Another. Your application for credit extension has been denied. Your current credit accounts will be reviewed for closure. They kept coming. One after another. Job gone. Apartment gone. Gym membership. Country club access. Professional associations. Everything that made up his life, his network, his identity in this city, systematically stripped away. Adrian's hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped the phone. One final message. This one from a number he recognized. Giovanni Moretti. You should have chosen your words more carefully, Mr. Cole. My daughter is not someone you dismiss as a fraud. Consider this a lesson in respect. Leave the city. Start over somewhere else. Because if you stay, what happens next will be much worse. Adrian stared at the message until the screen went dark. They were erasing him. Serafina and Lucian together were systematically destroying his life. And they could do it. They had the power, the connections, the reach to make him disappear without ever getting their hands dirty. He should have been terrified. He was terrified. But beneath the fear was something else. Rage. White-hot and consuming. She thought she could do this to him. Invite him to her little party, humiliate him in front of her criminal friends, and then ruin his life because he dared to point out what she was? No, he wasn't going down without a fight. Adrian pulled out his laptop and started searching. If Serafina Moretti Virelli wanted to play games, fine. He'd play. He'd find dirt on her family, her husband, the whole rotten empire they'd built. He'd go to the police, the FBI, anyone who would listen. He'd expose them all. He spent 3 hours digging through public records, news archives, court documents. He found mentions of investigations that went nowhere, witnesses who recanted, prosecutors who suddenly dropped cases, a pattern of corruption so deep and so protected that going after it would be suicide. But he didn't care anymore. They'd already destroyed him. What did he have left to lose? His phone rang. Unknown number again. He answered without thinking. Mr. Cole? The voice was smooth, professional, vaguely familiar. My name is Detective Sarah Chen with the Organized Crime Task Force. I understand you've had a difficult evening. Adrian's heart stopped. How did you... We keep tabs on certain individuals. Serafina Moretti Virelli is one of them. We saw you were a guest at tonight's event. A pause. We also saw the aftermath, the systematic destruction of your professional life. I'm sorry that happened to you. Why are you calling me? Because we've been trying to build a case against the Moretti and Virelli families for years, and we've gotten nowhere. They're too smart, too careful, too protected. But you were on the inside. You were married to Giovanni Moretti's daughter for 4 years. You must have seen something, heard something, anything we could use. Adrian's mind was racing. I didn't know who she was. She lied about everything. I'm sure she did. But you were still there. You were in her life. And now you have every reason to help us bring them down. Detective Chen's voice was calm, persuasive. Think about it, Mr. Cole. They took everything from you in one night. Your job, your home, your reputation. Don't you want to fight back? If I help you, they'll kill me. Not if we protect you. Witness protection, relocation, new identity. We can make you disappear completely. I don't have anything. I told you I didn't know what... You knew her. You lived with her. You saw how she thought, how she operated, even if you didn't know the full context. A pause. And Mr. Cole? She's the key to everything. Giovanni Moretti is old, set in his ways. Lucienne Virelli is dangerous but predictable. But Serafina? She's brilliant, ruthless. She's the one who's going to take this organization into the future. And if we can get to her, we can dismantle the whole thing. Adrian closed his eyes, saw Serafina's face at the gala, the cold satisfaction in her eyes when she told him she was happy, the casual cruelty when she'd thanked him for breaking her heart. What do you need? He heard himself say. Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m. There's a coffee shop on 5th and Morrison. Come alone. Don't tell anyone. And Mr. Cole? Detective Chen's voice softened. Thank you. You're doing the right thing. She hung up. Adrian sat in the dark, his laptop glowing in front of him, Detective Chen's number saved in his phone. He was going to do it. He was going to burn her whole world down, consequences be damned. Because if he was going to lose everything, then so was she. Tempt. Serafina stood on the balcony of the Velmont estate, champagne flute in hand, watching the last guests filter out to their cars. The gala had been a success. Alliances strengthened, messages sent, power confirmed, and Adrian Cole put in his place. She should have felt satisfied. She did feel satisfied. The look on his face when he'd realized exactly what he'd lost, that had been worth every minute of planning. "You're thinking too loud." She turned. Lucien had emerged from the ballroom, his bow tie undone, his jacket slung over one shoulder. He looked tired, but pleased. "Successful night," she said. "Very. Though I think you might have broken your ex-husband." "Good." Lucien moved to stand beside her, leaning against the balcony railing. "Giovanni went a bit far with the systematic destruction of his life, don't you think? He insulted me. In front of everyone, called me a fraud. He was lashing out, wounded pride. I don't care. He needed to learn that actions have consequences." "They do. But, Serafina—" Lucien turned to look at her, his expression serious. "You need to be careful. Cornered animals are dangerous, and you just backed him into a very tight corner. He's not dangerous, he's pathetic. Pathetic men do desperate things." Lucien's hand found hers on the railing. "I'm not saying you were wrong. I'm saying we need to watch him. Make sure he doesn't do something stupid." "Like what?" "Like go to the police. Like try to make a deal. Like decide that if he's going down, he's taking you with him." Serafina's jaw tightened. "He doesn't know anything. I was careful. He never saw anything incriminating. You don't have to see something to testify about it, and the feds have been looking for any crack in our armor for years. If they think they can flip him, they will. Then we'll deal with it." "How?" She looked at him, her eyes hard. "However we need to." Lucien studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded. "All right. I'll have people watch him. If he makes a move, we'll know." "Thank you." "Serafina." His grip on her hand tightened slightly. "I meant what I said earlier about you being where you belong. With me." "I know. Do you?" He turned to face her fully, his free hand coming up to cup her jaw. "Because sometimes I look at you and I see someone who's still running, just in a different direction. I'm not running from anything. You're running from feeling anything, from letting yourself be vulnerable, from trusting anyone, including me. Trust has to be earned. I've been earning it for weeks, months if you count the 6 years I waited for you to come home." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "When are you going to let me in?" Serafina's throat was tight. "This isn't about emotions, Lucien. It's about power, partnership, mutual benefit. It could be about more than that. It can't. I won't let it." "Why?" "Because your last husband betrayed you? Because love makes you weak?" Lucien's voice was gentle but firm. "Love doesn't make you weak, Serafina. Fear does. And right now, you're terrified." "I'm not afraid of anything. You're afraid of caring about me. You're afraid that if you do, I'll use it against you the way he did." He leaned in, his forehead nearly touching hers. "But I'm not him. I never will be. And the sooner you accept that, the stronger we'll both be." She wanted to pull away, wanted to tell him he was wrong, that she didn't need him or anyone else, that she was perfectly fine building walls between herself and every person who tried to get close. But his hand was warm on her face, and his eyes were honest, and some part of her, the part that was still just Serafina, underneath all the armor, wanted desperately to believe him. "I need time," she whispered. "I know. I'm patient." He pressed a kiss to her forehead, chaste and sweet. "But don't take too long, because the walls you're building, eventually they'll trap you instead of protect you." He stepped back, giving her space, and walked back inside. Serafina stood alone on the balcony, the night air cold on her skin, and wondered if he was right. Her phone buzzed. Text from her father's head of security. Adrian Cole met with someone 2 blocks from his apartment. Couldn't get close enough to ID, but body language suggested official capacity, possible law enforcement. Serafina's blood went cold. She typed back, "Are you sure? 70% certain. Want us to intervene? She stared at the message. Lucian had been right. Adrian was desperate. And desperate men did stupid, dangerous things, like make deals with people who wanted to destroy everything she'd built. Serafina's hands were steady as she typed her response. Follow him. Find out who he's talking to and what he's saying. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. I need information before we act. Understood. She looked out at the dark grounds, the empty driveway, the gates that kept the world at bay. Adrian Cole was about to learn that there were worse things than losing your job and your apartment. There were things worth protecting, lines you didn't cross, and he just crossed every single one. Adrian Cole arrived at the coffee shop on 5th and Morrison 14 minutes early. He'd barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Serafina's face, cold, satisfied, victorious, and felt the phantom weight of everything he'd lost crushing down on his chest. The morning air was crisp, almost cold, and he clutched a paper cup of coffee he'd bought from a different shop 3 blocks away because he didn't trust anything, anyone, anymore. The place was generic, corporate, the kind of coffee shop that existed in every city, indistinguishable from 1,000 others. Adrian chose a table near the back, facing the door, his leg bouncing under the table. His phone sat face down beside his coffee. He'd turned off location services, deleted his browser history, taken the battery out of his laptop. He didn't know if any of it mattered. The Morettis probably had resources he couldn't even imagine, but it made him feel slightly less exposed. At 9:58, a woman walked in. She was Asian, mid-30s, wearing a charcoal blazer and dark jeans. Her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail. She moved with the kind of controlled awareness that screamed law enforcement, eyes scanning the room, cataloging exits, assessing threats. When her gaze landed on Adrian, she nodded once and walked over. Mr. Cole. She didn't offer her hand, just slid into the seat across from him and set a slim leather portfolio on the table. Thank you for coming. Detective Chen? That's right. She glanced around the coffee shop once more, then leaned forward slightly. Before we start, I need to make something very clear. What we discuss here is confidential. But if you're wearing a wire, if you've been compromised in any way, you need to tell me right now. I'm not wearing a wire. Nobody knows I'm here. You're sure? No one followed you? I took 3 different trains and walked the last mile. I'm sure. Chen studied his face for a long moment, then nodded. Good. Because the people we're dealing with don't play games. If they think you're cooperating with law enforcement, they will kill you. Not threaten, not intimidate. Kill. Do you understand that? Adrian's mouth was dry. Yes. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm being realistic. The Moretti and Varelli families have a body count we can only estimate. Witnesses disappear. Informants turn up dead in ways designed to send messages. So if you're having second thoughts, now is the time to walk away. He thought about the texts, his job, his apartment, his entire life dismantled in a matter of hours. He thought about Serafina's smile, sharp as a knife. He thought about Lucien's hand on her back, possessive and certain. I'm not walking away. Okay. Chen opened the portfolio and pulled out a digital recorder. She set it on the table between them. I'm going to record this conversation for both our protection. Is that acceptable? Yes. She pressed record. This is Detective Sarah Chen, Organized Crime Task Force, conducting an interview with Adrian Cole regarding the Moretti and Varelli crime families. Mr. Cole, you were previously married to Serafina Moretti. Is that correct? Yes. I knew her as Sarah Vincent. I didn't know her real identity until recently. When did you discover her true identity? 3 weeks ago, after she married Lucian Varelli. I saw it in the news. And prior to that, during your 4-year marriage, she never disclosed her family connections. Never. She told me her parents were dead. She said she was on scholarship at Ashford. Everything was a lie. Chen made a note. But you lived with her, spent 4 years in close proximity. You must have noticed something unusual, phone calls at odd hours, unexplained absences, large sums of money? Adrian tried to think back. She was quiet, private. She didn't talk about herself much, but I thought that was just her personality. Did she receive visitors? Mail from suspicious sources? No, nothing like that. Did she ever discuss her family's business? Mention names, locations, operations? No, she never mentioned her family at all. Chen's expression tightened slightly. Mr. Cole, I need you to understand something. If you don't have actionable intelligence, concrete evidence of criminal activity, I can't help you. The U.S. Attorney won't authorize witness protection for someone who has nothing to offer. I'm telling you everything I know, which is nothing. You were married to a high-value target for 4 years, and you learned nothing about her real life. Chen sat back, her tone turning clinical. That's either very impressive operational security on her part, or you weren't paying attention. I was paying attention. She was good at hiding who she was. Was she? Or did you just not want to see it? Chen's eyes were sharp. You mentioned she was on scholarship. Did you ever verify that? Look at financial aid documents, tax returns? Adrian's stomach dropped. No. She worked at an art gallery. Did you ever visit her at work? Meet her colleagues? A few times. She said it was boring, that I didn't need to… He stopped, saw it suddenly. How she'd kept him away from anything that might raise questions. How she'd compartmentalized her life so completely that he'd never gotten close to the truth. She played you, Chen said quietly, and you let her because it was easier than asking hard questions. That's not… It is, but that's okay. People lie, especially people from that world. They're trained to lie convincingly. She paused. The problem is you don't have anything we can use. No evidence, no testimony about criminal activity, nothing that would hold up in court. Adrian felt panic rising. Then what the hell am I supposed to do? They destroyed my life. They took everything from me, and you're telling me there's nothing you can do? I'm telling you that revenge isn't a good enough reason for us to put you in witness protection. We need evidence, hard evidence, documents, recordings, eyewitness accounts of actual crimes. Chen leaned forward. But here's what I can offer. If you're willing to go back in, if you can get close to her again, gather intelligence, wear a wire, then we can talk about protection. Go back in? She hates me. She just humiliated me in front of half the city's criminal elite. Exactly. She thinks you're neutralized, broken. That makes you useful. Approach her. Apologize. Beg for forgiveness. Tell her you understand who she really is now and you want another chance. Play the pathetic ex-husband who realizes what he lost. She'll never believe that. She might. People like her, people who've spent their whole lives being underestimated, they want to believe they have power over others. If you grovel convincingly enough, she might let you back in just to prove she can. Adrian's hands were shaking. And if she doesn't? Then you're on your own. And you should probably leave the city because they will keep coming after you until there's nothing left. The recorder sat between them, red light blinking. Chen watched him with the kind of clinical detachment doctors probably used when delivering terminal diagnoses. Think about it, she said finally. But don't think too long. Every day you wait is another day they tighten the noose. My number's in your phone. When you're ready, call me. She stood, collected her recorder and portfolio, and walked out without looking back. Adrian sat alone in the coffee shop, his untouched coffee gone cold, and tried to figure out how his life had become unrecognizable in the span of 2 weeks. He didn't call Detective Chen. Not that day. Not the next. Instead, he went back to his apartment, the apartment he had 30 days to vacate, and started packing. He had savings. Not much, but enough to disappear for a while. Maybe head west, Colorado or Wyoming. Somewhere the Moretti's reach didn't extend. Somewhere he could start over with a new name and a new story and never think about Serafina again. He was shoving clothes into a duffel bag when his phone rang. Unknown number. Again. He almost didn't answer. Then, thinking it might be Chen with an update, he picked up. Adrian Cole? The voice was male, unfamiliar, professional. Who is this? My name is Marcus Webb. I'm an attorney representing the Moretti family. I'm calling to inform you that legal action is being prepared against you for defamation, harassment, and violation of a non-disclosure agreement you signed upon the dissolution of your marriage to Serafina Moretti. Adrian's blood went cold. I didn't sign an NDA. You signed a settlement agreement that included confidentiality clauses. Violating those clauses carries significant financial penalties and potential criminal charges. I haven't violated anything. I haven't talked to anyone. We have evidence suggesting otherwise. Specifically, a meeting this morning at a coffee shop on 5th and Morrison with an individual we believe to be affiliated with law enforcement. A pause. Mr. Cole, I'm going to be very direct with you. My clients are willing to resolve this matter quietly if you cooperate. But if you choose to pursue your current course of action, they will destroy you. Not metaphorically, literally. You will face legal action that will bankrupt you, criminal charges that will imprison you, and social consequences that will ensure you never work in your field again. This is insane. You can't do this. We can, and we will. Unless you agree to cease all contact with law enforcement, leave the city within 72 hours, and sign a more comprehensive non-disclosure agreement. And if I refuse, then you'll find out exactly how far the Moretti family's reach extends. The voice stayed calm, almost bored. You have 24 hours to decide. A courier will deliver the new NDA to your residence this evening. Sign it or face the consequences. The line went dead. Adrian stared at his phone, his heart hammering. They'd known. They'd known about his meeting with Chen within hours, which meant they were watching him, had been watching him the whole time. His apartment suddenly felt exposed, unsafe. He grabbed his duffel bag, his laptop, his wallet, and bolted. He didn't know where he was going, just away, out, anywhere but here. He made it 3 blocks before he saw the car. Black sedan, tinted windows, pulling up alongside him as he walked. The back window rolled down and a man leaned out. Young, professionally dressed, but his eyes were wrong, cold, empty. Mr. Cole, get in the car. I'm not getting in the car. It's not a request. The front passenger door opened and another man stepped out. Bigger, harder. The kind of muscle that didn't need to advertise what it could do. Adrian looked around. The street was busy, people everywhere. Witnesses. They wouldn't do anything here. They couldn't. The bigger man smiled like he'd read Adrian's thoughts. You can get in voluntarily, or we can make a scene. Your choice. But either way, you're coming with us. Adrian's legs felt weak. His mouth tasted like copper. He thought about running, thought about screaming, thought about all the things a normal person might do when being kidnapped in broad daylight. Instead, he got in the car. The door closed. The locks engaged. The car pulled smoothly into traffic. No one said anything. The driver kept his eyes on the road. The muscle sat beside Adrian, his presence a silent threat. The man who'd spoken from the window, younger, sharper, probably the handler, scrolled through his phone like this was just another errand. They drove for 20 minutes. Out of the city, into the industrial district where warehouses crouched like sleeping beasts. The car pulled into a loading bay and stopped. Out, the handler said. Adrian got out. His legs were shaking. The muscle grabbed his arm, not hard enough to bruise, but firm enough to communicate ownership, and guided him through a metal door down a hallway that smelled like oil and concrete, into a room that was empty except for a table and 3 chairs. Sit. Adrian sat. The muscle positioned himself by the door. The handler took the chair across from Adrian, folding his hands on the table like they were about to discuss a business merger. Here's how this works, the handler said. You're going to answer some questions. Truthfully. Completely. If I think you're lying, things get unpleasant. If you cooperate, you walk out of here and never hear from us again. Understand? Adrian nodded, his throat too tight to speak. Good. First question, what did you tell Detective Chen? Nothing. I don't know anything. I was married to Serafina for 4 years, and she never told me about her family. I had nothing to give her. Did Chen ask you to wear a wire? To go back to Mrs. Varelli and gather intelligence? Yes, but I said no. I was going to leave the city. Start over somewhere else. Why? Because I'm not stupid enough to go up against the Moretti family. The handler studied him. You seem sincere, but my employers are skeptical. They think you might be playing both sides, pretending to cooperate with law enforcement while actually planning to betray them. I'm not. I swear. I just want to disappear. Unfortunately, disappearing isn't an option anymore. You've become a liability, and my employers don't tolerate liabilities. Adrian's heart stopped. What does that mean? It means you have 2 choices. 1, you do exactly what we tell you to do, when we tell you to do it, for as long as we deem necessary. You become an asset instead of a liability. 2. We eliminate the liability permanently. You're going to kill me. Only if you make us. The handler leaned back. But if you cooperate, if you prove yourself useful, you might actually survive this. What do you want me to do? We want you to go back to Detective Chen. Tell her you've changed your mind. Tell her you want to cooperate. Wear a wire. Feed her information. Adrian's blood ran cold. You want me to be a double agent. We want you to help us identify who else in law enforcement is investigating the family. Names, case numbers, strategies. Chen's not working alone. She has a team. We need to know who they are. And if I do this, you'll let me go? If you do this successfully, we'll reconsider your status, maybe even compensate you for your trouble. The handler's smile was thin. But if you fuck this up, if you try to warn Chen or play hero, we'll know. And we'll kill everyone you've ever cared about before we kill you. Parents, friends, that college roommate you text on weekends, everyone. Adrian couldn't breathe. You're insane. We're thorough. There's a difference. The handler stood. You have 12 hours to make contact with Chen and set up another meeting. We'll provide you with the wire and instructions. Don't disappoint us, Mr. Cole. The muscle opened the door. Adrian was escorted back through the hallway, back into the car, back to a street corner 3 blocks from his apartment. 12 hours, the handler said as Adrian climbed out. Don't waste them. The car drove away. Adrian stood on the sidewalk, people flowing around him like water around a stone, and tried to process what had just happened. They'd forced his hand. Completely. He couldn't run. They'd find him. He couldn't refuse. They'd kill him. And if he went to Chen and told her the truth, the Morettis would know, and they'd kill everyone he loved before disappearing him. He was trapped. Absolutely, completely trapped. Unless an idea started forming. Terrible, desperate, the kind of thing that would probably get him killed. But it was the only thing he had. He pulled out his phone and called Detective Chen. Mr. Cole, I was wondering when I'd hear from you. I've reconsidered. I want to help. I'll wear the wire. I'll get close to Serafina again. Whatever you need. A pause. That's quite a change of heart. What happened? I realized you were right. Running won't solve anything. They'll just keep coming, so I might as well fight back. Smart man. Chen sounded pleased. Can you meet tomorrow? Same place, 9 a.m.? No, tonight, as soon as possible. I need to move on this before I lose my nerve. Another pause, longer this time. All right, give me 2 hours. I'll text you a location. Thank you, Detective. He hung up and immediately opened a new contact, typed in the number Marcus Webb had called from earlier. I'm meeting Chen tonight. She's setting me up with a wire. I'll get you everything you need. The response came within 30 seconds. Good. Someone will contact you in 1 hour with the device and instructions. Don't fuck this up. Adrian put his phone away and walked back to his apartment. His hands were steady now, his mind clear, because he wasn't going to help the Morettis identify Chen's team. He was going to use this opportunity to record everything. Every instruction they gave him, every threat they made, every piece of evidence that could prove what they were doing. And then he was going to give it all to Chen and pray she could protect him before the Morettis figured out what he'd done. It was suicide. Probably. But at least it was his choice. His move. And if he was going down, he was taking Serafina Moretti Virelli with him. The courier arrived at 7 p.m. Different muscle, same dead eyes. He handed Adrian a small box and left without a word. Inside was a wire, professional grade, the kind law enforcement used, along with detailed instructions on where to place it, how to activate it, how to transmit. And a note. This device has a kill switch. If we detect any attempt to tamper with it or reveal its existence to Chen, it will be activated and you will be terminated. Stick to the script. Get us names or die trying. Adrian read the note 3 times, then burned it in his kitchen sink. At 8:30, he got the text from Chen with an address. Industrial area, different from where the Morettis had taken him. He grabbed his jacket and headed out. The wire the Morettis had given him was taped to his chest, hidden under his shirt. In his pocket was a second device, a cheap digital recorder he'd bought from an electronics store 2 blocks away. Not sophisticated, not encrypted, but it would capture audio. Chen was waiting in an unmarked van when he arrived. She opened the back door and gestured him inside. Mr. Cole, ready to do this? as ready as I'll ever be. She pulled out her own wire, smaller, more discreet. I'm going to fit you with this. It'll record everything and transmit back to our surveillance team. All you have to do is get close to her, have a conversation, get her to talk about family business, anything concrete. Adrian nodded. Let her fit the wire, felt the weight of 2 recording devices against his skin, and wondered which one would get him killed first. Remember, Chen said, you're pathetic, broken, desperate for another chance. She'll either pity you or despise you, but either way, she might let something slip. That's all we need. What if she doesn't see me? Then you try again and again, until she does. Chen's expression was hard. You wanted to fight back, Mr. Cole. This is how you fight, by being patient, by playing the long game. I understand. Good. Now go home, get some sleep. Tomorrow, you approach her. We'll be listening the whole time. If anything goes wrong, if you feel threatened, just say the safe word we discussed and we'll extract you. What's the safe word? Nightingale. Say it and we pull you out immediately. Adrian nodded. Nightingale. He'd remember that. He left the van and walked back toward his apartment, 2 wires recording every breath, every footstep, every moment. This was it, the point of no return. Whatever happened next would either free him or kill him. He was betting everything on the hope that Chen's team was better protected than the Moretti's reach was long. It was a bad bet, but it was the only one he had. The next morning, Adrian stood outside the Varelli building downtown, staring up at glass and steel that reached toward a sky the color of old bruises. His hands were sweating. Both wires were active, the Moretti's device transmitting to wherever they were listening, Chen's transmitting to her surveillance van 2 blocks away. The digital recorder in his pocket was rolling too, backup insurance in case everything else failed. He'd practiced his script 100 times, memorized the pathetic broken tone he needed to hit, prepared himself for the very real possibility that Serafina would have him thrown out, or worse. But he hadn't prepared for what actually happened. He made it through security, barely, after they called upstairs and someone granted reluctant approval. The elevator ride to the 23rd floor felt like descending into deep water. His ears popped. His chest got tight. The receptionist at the Varelli Corp front desk looked at him like he was something scraped off a shoe. Mr. Cole, Mrs. Varelli will see you in conference room B, down the hall, 3rd door on your left. Thank you. The conference room was all windows and minimalist furniture. Serafina was already there, standing with her back to the door, looking out over the city. She wore black again, tailored pants, silk blouse, heels that added 3 inches to her height. Her hair was down, falling in dark waves past her shoulders. She didn't turn when he entered. Close the door. He closed it. You have 5 minutes. Make them count. Adrian's throat was dry. Stick to the script. Be pathetic. Be desperate. I came to apologize. For what exactly? For calling me a fraud in front of my husband? For cheating on me with a 28-year-old analyst? For wasting 4 years of my life? Now she turned and her eyes were ice. You'll have to be more specific. For all of it. I was wrong. About everything. I didn't understand who you were, what you'd sacrificed, and I threw it away because I was stupid and selfish and— Stop. She held up one hand. I don't need your apology. I don't want it. You had your chance to grovel at the gala. That ship has sailed. Serafina, please, don't call me that. You lost the right to use my real name when you fucked someone else in our bed. I know I did, but I'm asking you for a chance to make it right. To prove that I understand now, that I— That you what? Love me? She laughed, sharp and bitter. You never loved me, Adrian. You loved the idea of me, the mystery, the project. You loved being the one who saved poor little Sarah Vincent from her tragic past. That's not true. It's completely true. And you know what the saddest part is? I almost let myself believe you. I almost convinced myself that love was enough to make me someone different. She moved closer, her heels clicking on the hardwood. But then you showed me exactly what that love was worth. So thank you. Really. You set me free. Adrian's chest was tight. The wires felt like they were burning through his skin. I just want a chance. A chance at what? To worm your way back into my life? To spy on me? To report back to whoever's paying you to be here? His blood went cold. No one's paying me. I came here because you're desperate. Because my family destroyed your life, and now you want revenge. Or protection. Or both. She was close enough now that he could smell her perfume. Something dark and expensive. Did you really think I wouldn't know about your meeting with Detective Chen? Did you think we wouldn't have people watching you? I don't know what you're talking about. Don't insult me by lying. Not now. Not after everything. Her voice dropped, went quiet. Dangerous. You met with Chen. She offered you witness protection in exchange for intelligence. You agreed, and now you're here, wearing a wire, trying to get me to incriminate myself. Serafina. I had you swept before you came up. 3 separate recording devices, one from Chen's team, one from my family's security, and one cheap piece of shit you bought yourself as insurance. She smiled. We've been jamming all 3 since you walked through that door, so whatever you were hoping to accomplish here, it failed. Adrian couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The room was spinning. My husband wanted to kill you, Serafina continued conversationally. Clean, quick. Make it look like an accident. But I told him no. I told him you weren't worth it, that you were just a pathetic little man who couldn't accept that he'd lost. Please. But now I see I was wrong. You're not just pathetic. You're dangerous. You're working both sides, trying to play my family against law enforcement, and you're too stupid to realize that everyone involved will kill you the second you stop being useful. I didn't have a choice. They threatened me. They said they'd kill everyone you love. Yes, I know. That's standard procedure, and it's very effective, isn't it? She tilted her head, studying him like a specimen under glass. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave this building. You're going to go back to Detective Chen and tell her you couldn't get anything useful from me. You're going to go back to my family's people and tell them the same thing, and then you're going to disappear. Quietly. Completely. Out of the city, out of the state, preferably out of the country. And if I don't, then I stop protecting you. I tell Lucien you're actively working with law enforcement, and he handles you the way he handles all threats to our family. Her smile was cold. You'll disappear, Adrian, but not the way you want. You'll disappear in pieces, in places no one will ever find. His knees felt weak. You'd really do that? Have me killed? Without hesitation. She stepped back, putting distance between them. You made your choice when you tried to use me. When you thought you could manipulate both sides and come out ahead. Now live with the consequences. I loved you. No, you loved who you thought I was. You never knew me at all. She walked to the door, opened it. Goodbye, Adrian. Don't make me see you again. He stumbled out into the hallway. The receptionist wouldn't look at him. Security escorted him to the elevator, rode down with him in silence, walked him through the lobby and out onto the street. Adrian stood on the sidewalk, traffic rushing past, people flowing around him, and felt the full weight of his failure crash down. She'd known everything, every move he'd made, every desperate play, and she'd let him walk into her building anyway, just to prove she could destroy him with words alone. His phone buzzed, text from the Moretti handler. We heard everything. You're compromised. Expect consequences. Another buzz. Chen. Audio dropped 20 minutes ago. What happened? Are you okay? Another buzz. Unknown number. You have 12 hours to leave the city. After that, we start with your mother. Her address is 47 Maple Street, Unit 3. She's home right now, making tea. Leave her out of this. Leave everyone out of this. Just go. Adrian's hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped the phone. They'd been in his mother's house. Or watching it. Or both. He started walking. No destination. Just movement. Because standing still meant thinking, and thinking meant confronting the reality that he'd destroyed his own life trying to destroy someone who was always 3 steps ahead. He made it 2 blocks before his legs gave out. He sat down hard on a bench, put his head in his hands, and tried to figure out how to survive the next 12 hours. Because after that, he'd either be gone or he'd be dead. And either way, Serafina Moretti Virelli would win, just like she'd always been going to. Adrian sat on that bench for 47 minutes, watching the city move around him like he was already a ghost. His phone kept buzzing, messages from numbers he didn't recognize, threats coded in polite language. countdown timers ticking down to his mother's death, or his own, or both. He stopped reading them after the first dozen, started just watching the screen light up, over and over, like a heartbeat that wouldn't stop. Then something shifted in his head. Some fundamental wire crossed or broke or reconnected wrong. He stood up. His legs were steadier than they should have been. His hands had stopped shaking because he'd just realized something that should have been obvious from the start. They were going to kill him anyway. It didn't matter if he ran. Didn't matter if he cooperated. Didn't matter if he disappeared to some shithole town in Wyoming and changed his name and lived the rest of his life looking over his shoulder. The Morettis didn't leave loose ends. Detective Chen had said it herself. Witnesses disappeared, informants turned up dead. He was both now. Compromised by law enforcement, compromised by the family, useful to no one, and dangerous to everyone. So if he was dead either way, he might as well choose how it happened. Adrian pulled out his phone and called Detective Chen. She answered on the first ring. "Cole? Where the hell are you? Your wire went dead. They jammed it. Serafina knew everything. About you, about the Morettis, forcing me to be a double agent, all of it." Silence. Then, "How much did she know?" "Everything. She had me swept before I even got into her office. 3 recording devices," she said. "She's been watching me the whole time." "Fuck." Chen's voice was tight. "Okay. We need to get you into protective custody immediately. Where are you?" "Corner of 5th and Madison, but I'm not running." "Cole, you don't have a choice. If they know you talk to me, if they know you're compromised, they're going to kill me anyway. You know it. I know it. So I'm done running." Adrian started walking, no destination in mind, just movement. "But I'll make you a deal. I'm listening. I give you everything. Everything I know about Serafina, about our marriage, about the patterns I saw even if I didn't understand them at the time. I testify. I go on record. I burn her as hard as I can burn her. In exchange for what? Protection for my mother. Real protection. Federal custody, new identity, relocated somewhere they'll never find her. I don't care what happens to me, but she doesn't deserve to die because I married the wrong woman." Another pause. He could hear Chen typing, probably coordinating something. "I can do that. But Cole, if you're serious about this, you need to come in right now. We'll debrief you, get everything documented, and move your mother within the hour." "I'm serious. Tell me where to go." She gave him an address. Federal building downtown, underground parking, specific bay number. "Don't stop. Don't talk to anyone. Get here as fast as you can." "I will. But Chen?" "Yeah?" "When this goes to trial, when Serafina's sitting across from me in that courtroom, I want to be the one who puts her there. I want her to know it was me. If we can build a case strong enough, you'll get your chance. Now move." He hung up and started walking faster, became jogging, then running. People stared, but he didn't care. He had maybe 20 minutes before the Morettis figured out where he was going and what he was doing, maybe less. Every second mattered. His phone rang. Giovanni Moretti. Adrian answered without slowing down. "What?" "Mr. Cole, you're making a terrible mistake." "Yeah, well, I've made a lot of those lately. What's one more?" "You think Detective Chen can protect you? You think the federal government gives a damn about a scorned ex-husband with a vendetta?" Giovanni's voice was calm, almost fatherly. "They'll use you up and throw you away. And when they do, we'll be waiting. Maybe. But at least I'll take your daughter down with me." "My daughter is untouchable. She's too smart, too careful. You have nothing on her that will stick. I have 4 years of living with her. 4 years of patterns, habits, the way she thought. You trained her well, Giovanni, but you also made her predictable. And predictable means vulnerable." A long silence. Then, "You're a dead man, Adrian Cole. I've been a dead man since I married her. Now I'm just choosing when to stop breathing." He hung up and kept running. The federal building loomed ahead, all concrete and security and the weight of institutional power. Adrian flashed his ID at the guard, gave Chen's name, got directed to the underground parking. He took the stairs 3 at a time, his lungs burning, his shirt soaked with sweat. Chen was waiting by an unmarked sedan, 2 other agents with her. She looked tense, wired. "Cole, get in." He got in the back. One of the agents climbed in beside him. The other took the front passenger seat. Chen drove. "Where's my mother?" "Protective detail is picking her up right now. She'll be at a secure location within 30 minutes. "You're sure?" "I'm sure. Now start talking. Everything you remember about Serafina. Everything that seemed off, unusual, out of place. Adrian leaned back and closed his eyes, reaching for memories he'd spent weeks trying to forget. She never slept more than 5 hours. Never, even on weekends. And she'd wake up instantly, no grogginess, no transition, like someone had flipped a switch. Chen was recording, the agent beside him taking notes. She could read people, not just body language, but deeper. She'd know what someone was going to say before they said it. I thought it was intuition. Now I think it was training. What else? Money. She had access to cash I never saw in any bank statements. Not huge amounts. Nothing that would raise flags, but always available. A few hundred here, 1,000 there. I asked her about it once and she said it was from selling art at the gallery. But I checked. The gallery didn't do cash transactions. Did she have any regular contacts, phone calls at specific times? Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. She'd go into the bedroom, close the door, said it was her therapist. But I never saw a therapist bill. Never saw her schedule appointments. The agent beside him was writing furiously. Chen kept her eyes on the road, weaving through traffic. What about visitors? Anyone come to the apartment? Never. No one. In 4 years, not a single visitor. She said she was private, liked to keep work and home separate. But who lives like that? Who goes 4 years without a single friend stopping by? Operational security, Chen muttered. She was keeping her worlds completely separate. Smart. They pulled into an underground garage, fluorescent lights flickering overhead. Chen parked next to an elevator marked Authorized Personnel Only. Upstairs. We have a secure room set up. We're going to debrief you properly. Get everything on record. This might take hours. I don't care how long it takes. They rode the elevator to the 7th floor. Windowless corridors, locked doors requiring keycards, the institutional smell of government buildings everywhere. Chen led him to a conference room with a table, recording equipment, and a two-way mirror. Sit. Water? Yeah. She poured him a glass from a pitcher on the table, then sat across from him. The 2 other agents positioned themselves near the door. This is an official statement. Everything you say will be recorded and may be used in criminal proceedings against Serafina Moretti Virelli and associated members of the Moretti and Virelli crime families. Do you understand? I understand. State your full name for the record. Adrian Michael Cole. And you were married to Serafina Moretti from June 2019 to July 2023. Is that correct? Yes. During that time, were you aware of her family connections or criminal affiliations? No, she used the name Sarah Vincent. She told me her parents were dead. Everything about her past was a fabrication. Chen leaned forward. But you saw things, patterns, behaviors that, in retrospect, indicate her true background. I need you to detail everything, chronologically if possible. Adrian started talking. He talked about the first time he'd noticed she never flinched at violence on TV, never looked away from footage that made him uncomfortable. How she'd watched a documentary about cartel executions with the same detached interest someone might show a cooking show. He talked about her hands, how they were soft but strong, how she could open jars he struggled with, how once when someone had grabbed her arm in a crowded bar, she'd twisted out of the grip so fast and so efficiently that the guy had yelped in pain before even realizing what happened. He talked about languages, how she'd muttered in Italian when she thought he was asleep, how she'd answered a wrong number call in flawless Spanish and carried on a conversation before hanging up and telling him it was a telemarketer. He talked about the scars, small ones, faded but there, one on her shoulder blade, one on her hip, one behind her left ear, hidden by hair. She'd said they were from childhood accidents, but they were too precise, too clean. Hours passed. The water pitcher was refilled twice. Chen asked questions, pushed for details, made him repeat things until they were crystal clear. Did she ever mention names? Family members? Business associates? Anyone from her real life? Never directly. But once, Adrian paused, the memory surfacing. Once she was sick, really sick, flu or food poisoning, delirious with fever. She kept mumbling. Most of it was incoherent, but I heard a name. Lucien. She kept saying, "I'm sorry, Lucien," over and over. The man she's married to now. Yeah, I asked her about it when she recovered. She said she didn't remember, that it was probably from a dream. What else did she say? When she was delirious? Something about a wedding, white dress, running. She said, "I ran, Papa. I had to run." And then she started crying. I'd never seen her cry before, not once in 4 years. But that night, she sobbed like her heart was breaking. Chen and the other agents exchanged glances. That's good. That establishes awareness of the arranged marriage, consciousness of guilt for abandoning it. What else? Adrian kept talking, kept dredging up memories he'd buried or ignored. The way Serafina always sat facing the door in restaurants, how she'd memorized the exits of every building they entered, how she'd insisted on specific locks for their apartment, high-end, expensive, the kind of security that seemed paranoid for their neighborhood. How she'd disappeared for 3 days in their second year of marriage, came back exhausted, and wouldn't explain where she'd been except to say, family emergency. He'd believed her because he'd wanted to believe her. How she'd received a package once, unmarked box, and when she'd opened it, her face had gone white. She'd burned the contents in the sink. He'd seen ash, smelled paper, and told him it was junk mail. But he'd seen her hands shaking. The pieces added up. Separately, they were nothing. Together, they painted a picture of a woman living a double life so completely that even her husband had been fooled. "This is solid," Chen said finally, after what felt like 6 hours but was probably 4. "With this testimony combined with surveillance we already have, we can start building a RICO case. It won't be fast and it won't be easy, but we can do it." "How long? Months? Maybe a year?" "We'll need to corroborate everything, build connections, establish patterns. But you've given us a starting point we didn't have before." "And my mother?" "Safe. Already relocated, new identity, new city. She doesn't even know why yet. We told her it was a precautionary measure while we investigated a threat against you. She'll be briefed once we're certain she's secure." Adrian felt something loosen in his chest. Relief, maybe. Or just exhaustion. "What happens to me now?" "Witness protection. New name, new city, new life. You'll be monitored until the trial, and you'll need to testify when the time comes, but otherwise you disappear." "Where?" "We don't tell you that until we move you. Operational security? The less you know now, the less you can accidentally reveal if they find you before we extract you." "When does that happen?" "Tonight. We've got a safe house ready. You'll stay there while we process everything, then we move you to your permanent location." Chen stood. "Get some rest. You've got a long road ahead." One of the agents showed Adrian to a small room down the hall. Bed, bathroom, no windows. He collapsed onto the mattress fully clothed and was asleep in seconds. He dreamed of Serafina. White dress, blood on her hands, running through corridors that never ended. He woke to shouting, not nearby. Down the hall. Raised voices, the sharp crack of something breaking. Adrian sat up, his heart hammering, every instinct screaming danger. The door to his room opened. Chen stood there, her face grim. "We've got a problem." "What kind of problem?" "The kind where someone just leaked your location to the Moretti family, and we have approximately 10 minutes before this building is compromised." Adrian's blood went cold. "How is that possible? This is a federal building." "They have people everywhere, Cole. I told you that. Now move." "We're evacuating through the parking garage." He followed her into the corridor. Agents were running, weapons drawn, radios crackling with urgent chatter. The building's alarm started blaring. "This way. Stay close." They made it to the elevator. Chen hit the button for parking level 2. The doors closed. The elevator started descending. It stopped between floors. Chen swore, hit the emergency button. Nothing. "They've cut the power." She pulled her radio. "This is Chen. We're trapped in elevator 7, between floors 3 and 4. I have the witness with me. Need extraction immediately." Static. Then a voice Adrian didn't recognize. "Negative, Chen. Building's locked down. Hostile forces in the lobby. We're engaging now." Gunfire. Distant but unmistakable. Adrian's legs almost gave out. Chen was already prying at the elevator doors. "Help me. We need to get out of here." Together, they forced the doors open. They were between floors, the shaft dark above and below. Chen pulled out a flashlight, shone it down. "There's a ladder, maintenance access. We climb down to parking level 3, exit through the vehicle bay." "Are you insane? We'll be exposed." "We're exposed here. Move." She swung out onto the ladder. Adrian followed, his hand slipping on the rungs, sweat pouring down his face. Below them, he He could hear more gunfire. Closer now. The Morettis weren't just in the building, they were hunting floor by floor. They reached the parking level. Chen forced open the doors, pulled Adrian through. The parking garage was chaos. Agents taking cover behind vehicles, muzzle flashes lighting up the concrete darkness, the sharp crack of rounds hitting metal and stone. Stay low, follow me. They ran in a crouch, using cars for cover. Adrian's ears were ringing. His vision had narrowed to a tunnel. This wasn't real. Couldn't be real. This was the kind of thing that happened in movies, not in federal buildings in the middle of a major city. A black SUV screeched around the corner. Chen yanked Adrian down behind a concrete pillar just as bullets chewed into the space where they'd been standing. Fuck, fuck. Chen was on her radio again. This is Agent Chen, parking level 3, under heavy fire, requesting immediate backup. The radio exploded in her hand. Sparks, plastic shrapnel. She dropped it with a yelp, her palm bleeding. The SUV's doors opened. Men in tactical gear poured out. Professional, efficient. Not Moretti family soldiers. These were contractors. Hired killers. Chen raised her weapon, fired twice. One of the contractors went down. The others returned fire, forcing her back behind the pillar. Cole, listen to me. Her voice was steady despite the blood running down her wrist. There's an exit on the north side, leads to the street. You run, you don't look back, you get as far away from here as possible. What about you? I'll cover you. Now go. I can't just... You don't have a choice. Go. Adrian ran. He ran through the parking garage, through the sound of gunfire and shouting, through his own terror. He found the exit, a metal door marked emergency only, and slammed through it. Alley, dark, rain starting to fall. He kept running, slipping on wet pavement, his lungs burning. Behind him, an explosion. The building shook. Car alarms started wailing. Adrian didn't look back. He ran for 6 blocks before his legs gave out, collapsed in a doorway, gasping, his whole body shaking, pulled out his phone with trembling hands. The screen was cracked, must have happened in the chaos, but it still worked. He pulled up Chen's number, called it. No answer, just ringing. Then voicemail. He tried again, same result. She was dead, had to be. No way she survived that, which meant he was alone, completely alone. No protection, no backup, no plan. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered, knowing already who it would be. Hello, Adrian. Serafina's voice was calm, almost gentle. You've had quite an evening. You attacked a federal building. Do you have any idea what you've just done? I've eliminated a threat to my family. The FBI will investigate, of course. They'll find evidence of a terrorist cell. Radical extremists targeting government facilities. Very tragic, but nothing that points back to us. Chen had my testimony. Everything I told her is gone. The recordings were destroyed in the explosion. The building's servers were wiped remotely. And Detective Chen, I'm sorry to say, didn't survive. A pause. Though I understand she died protecting you. How noble. Adrian couldn't breathe. You're a monster. I'm practical. There's a difference. Her voice hardened slightly. You had your chance to walk away, Adrian. I gave you that chance. But you chose to keep fighting, so now we finish this. Where's my mother? Safe. For now. In fact, she's the only reason you're still alive, because I'm going to offer you one final deal. I'm not making deals with you. Yes, you are. Because the alternative is watching your mother die slowly while you listen on speakerphone. The threat was delivered in the same tone she might use to discuss dinner plans. Here's the deal. You come to me, tonight, alone. We have a conversation, a real one, without wires or lies or federal agents. And if I believe you're truly done fighting, I let you both live. You disappear. She disappears, and we never speak again. And if I don't believe you, then I start sending you pieces of her. An ear, perhaps, or a finger. I'll make it last, Adrian. I'll make her suffering so profound that you'll beg me to kill her. And when I finally grant that mercy, I'll start on you. His hands were shaking so hard he almost dropped the phone. You're bluffing. You don't have her. The FBI moved her to a safe house in Alexandria, 47 Birch Lane. She arrived 3 hours ago with 2 federal marshals who are now dead in the basement. She's in the master bedroom, tied to a chair, crying because she doesn't understand what's happening. Would you like to hear her? Adrian heard rustling, then his mother's voice, terrified and confused. Adrian? Adrian, is that you? Please, I don't understand. What's happening? The phone moved. Serafina again. Convinced? Don't hurt her. Please, she didn't do anything. I know she didn't. This is about you, your choices, your actions. A pause. So, here's what you're going to do. There's a car waiting for you at the corner of 7th and Pine, black sedan. Get in. It will bring you to me. We'll talk. And maybe, if you're very convincing, everyone walks away from this alive. How do I know you won't just kill us both? You don't. But right now, I'm the only chance you have, so stop asking questions and start moving. You have 20 minutes. After that, your mother starts paying for your delays. The line went dead. Adrian stood in the doorway, rain soaking through his clothes, and tried to think. Tried to find some angle, some way out of this that didn't end with him and his mother in shallow graves. There wasn't one. Serafina had won. Again. Completely. All he could do now was show up and hope she was feeling merciful. He started walking toward 7th and Pine. The car was exactly where she'd said it would be. Black sedan, tinted windows, engine running. The back door opened as he approached. He got in. The door locked. The car pulled into traffic. The driver didn't speak, didn't even look at him in the rearview mirror, just drove. They left the city, headed north into suburbs, then past suburbs into countryside. Trees and darkness and roads that got narrower and less maintained. Adrian's phone buzzed. Text from Serafina. Almost there. I hope you've been thinking about what you're going to say. Your mother's life depends on it. He didn't respond, just stared out the window and tried to prepare himself for whatever was coming. The car turned onto a private road. Gates opened automatically. They drove up a long driveway to a house that was more compound than home. High walls, security cameras, armed guards at strategic positions. The car stopped. The driver got out, opened Adrian's door. This way. Adrian followed him to the front entrance. Inside was all marble and art, and the kind of wealth that whispered instead of shouted. He was led through corridors to a room at the back of the house. Serafina was waiting. She sat in a leather chair, legs crossed, wearing black pants and a white blouse. Her hair was down. No jewelry except her wedding ring. She looked calm, composed, like they were meeting for coffee instead of a hostage negotiation. Adrian, thank you for coming. Where's my mother? Upstairs, unharmed. You'll see her shortly, assuming our conversation goes well. She gestured to a chair across from her. Sit. He sat. His whole body was tense, coiled, ready to fight or run or both. Serafina studied him for a long moment. Then she said, You look terrible. You tried to kill me. Multiple times. I tried to eliminate a threat. You made it personal. You destroyed my life first. You destroyed your own life when you betrayed me. Her voice was cold. Everything that's happened since has been consequences, cause and effect. You seem to struggle with that concept. What do you want from me, Serafina? Why bring me here instead of just killing me? She leaned forward slightly. Because, despite everything, I need to understand something. Why? Why keep fighting when you had nothing to gain and everything to lose? Why not just disappear when I gave you the chance? Adrian met her eyes, saw something there he hadn't expected. Genuine confusion, like she really couldn't comprehend why someone would choose principle over survival. Because you took everything from me. My job, my home, my reputation. You humiliated me, and I wanted you to pay for that. So this was revenge. Simple as that. Not simple, but yes. Even though revenge meant risking your mother's life, your own life, I didn't think... He stopped. I thought Chen could protect us. Detective Chen is dead. Her team is scattered. The investigation into my family will stall and die like every investigation before it. You accomplished nothing except proving how powerless you really are. She stood, walked to the window, looked out at darkness. Do you know what the saddest part is? I actually felt sorry for you. When I saw you at the gala, broken and pathetic, part of me pitied you. But then you kept pushing, kept trying to hurt me. And pity turned to irritation. Irritation turned to anger. And now here we are. Are you going to kill me? I haven't decided yet. She turned to face him. That depends on what you do next. I'll disappear. I'll take my mother and we'll leave the country. You'll never hear from either of us again. That's not enough anymore. Not after the federal building, not after Chen. You've cost me resources, exposed vulnerabilities, forced me to take actions I'd rather have avoided. Her eyes were hard. So here's what's actually going to happen. You're going to record a video confession. You're going to admit that you've been stalking me since our divorce, that you attacked the federal building yourself in an attempt to frame my family, that Detective Chen died trying to stop you, that you're mentally unstable, dangerous, and everything you've said about me and my family is the delusion of a scorned ex-husband who couldn't accept rejection. No one will believe that. They will when the evidence supports it, which it will. We're very good at constructing narratives. She pulled out her phone, started recording. So make your choice, Adrian. Record the confession, discredit yourself completely, and live. Or refuse. And watch your mother die before I kill you too. He stared at the phone, at her face behind it, calm, certain, in complete control. This was it. The final move. The checkmate he'd been hurtling towards since the moment he'd stepped into that coffee shop with Detective Chen. He could refuse, could go down fighting, could maintain his integrity even as they killed him. Or he could surrender, could lie, could destroy his own credibility to save his mother's life. Not really a choice at all. Adrian took a breath, looked into the camera, and started speaking. My name is Adrian Cole. I'm recording this confession of my own free will to admit that everything I've said about Serafina Moretti and her family has been a lie. He kept talking, kept reciting the script Serafina fed him, word for word, kept destroying himself piece by piece until there was nothing left but the image of a deranged stalker who tried to destroy an innocent woman because she dared to leave him. When he finished, Serafina stopped recording. Good. That was very convincing. She saved the video, put her phone away. The FBI will receive an anonymous tip about your whereabouts in approximately 6 hours. They'll find you in a hotel room with evidence of your crimes, manifestos, surveillance photos, bomb-making materials. You'll be arrested, tried, and convicted. You'll spend the rest of your life in prison as the man who attacked a federal building and killed a decorated FBI agent. You said we'd live. You said if I confessed, I said you'd live, and you will, in a cell, for the next 40 years. She smiled. Did you really think I'd let you walk away after everything you've done? After you tried to destroy me? Adrian lunged at her, got maybe 2 steps before guards appeared from nowhere, slamming him to the ground. His face hit marble. He tasted blood. Serafina crouched beside him, her voice soft in his ear. You should have taken the first deal, Adrian. You should have disappeared when you had the chance. But you wanted to be the hero. You wanted to bring me down. And now you're going to spend the rest of your life knowing that you lost. Completely. Absolutely. Forever. She stood, gestured to the guards. Take him to the van and bring his mother down. Let them say goodbye before we turn them both over to the authorities. Both? Adrian's voice was muffled against the floor. You said, I said I'd let her live, and I will. But she'll need to explain how she ended up tied to a chair in a safe house with 2 dead federal marshals in her basement. That's going to be a difficult conversation, don't you think? She didn't do anything. Neither did I. But we both know that doesn't matter when the evidence says otherwise. The guards hauled Adrian to his feet, dragged him toward the door. He fought, screamed, tried to break free. They held him easily, professionally. In the hallway, his mother was being brought down the stairs. She looked terrified, confused, broken. Adrian, what's happening? Who are these people? Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Touching, Serafina said from behind them. But we're on a schedule. Put them in separate vehicles. They won't see each other again until the trial. Adrian was shoved into a van. The door slammed shut. Through the window, he could see his mother being loaded into a different vehicle, still calling his name. Serafina appeared at his window one last time. Goodbye, Adrian. Try to think of prison as a learning experience. Maybe you'll finally understand that some battles can't be won, some people can't be beaten, and some choices can't be undone. The van started moving. Adrian pressed his face against the glass, watching the compound disappear into darkness. watching everything he'd fought for crumble into nothing. Serafina stood in the driveway, perfectly still, perfectly composed, watching him go, victorious, as she'd always been going to be. The van drove for 37 minutes before it stopped. Adrian had counted every second, his forehead pressed against the cold glass, his wrists zip-tied behind his back. He'd stopped struggling after the first 5 minutes, stopped shouting after 10. By minute 15, he'd gone completely silent, his mind racing through scenarios that all ended the same way. Him in a cell, his mother traumatized beyond repair, and Serafina walking free. When the doors finally opened, he expected federal agents. Expected to be dragged into some processing facility where his fabricated confession would seal his fate. Instead, he saw Lucien Varelli. The man stood backlit by streetlights, wearing a dark coat that made him look like something carved from shadow. His expression was unreadable. Behind him, the van that had carried Adrian's mother sat with its engine still running. "Get him out," Lucien said quietly. The guards hauled Adrian from the van, dumped him on wet pavement. Rain had started again, cold and relentless. Adrian looked around, trying to orient himself. They were in some kind of industrial area, abandoned warehouses, broken streetlights, the smell of rust and old oil. "Where's my mother?" Lucien gestured. The other van's doors opened. Adrian's mother stumbled out, supported by 2 different guards. She looked pale, shaken, but alive. When she saw Adrian, she started crying. "Adrian, please, I don't understand what's happening. Mom, just stay calm. It's going to be okay." "Is it?" Lucien's voice cut through the rain like a blade. He walked toward Adrian, his hands in his coat pockets, his movements deliberate. "Because from where I'm standing, nothing about this is okay." Adrian tried to stand. One of the guards kicked his legs out from under him. He went down hard on his knees, concrete biting through his pants. Lucien crouched in front of him, eye level now. "Do you know what my wife wanted me to do with you?" "Kill me, obviously." "Close. She wanted me to hand you over to the FBI with enough evidence to guarantee a conviction, life in prison, most likely. You'd rot in a cell while she moved on with her life." Lucien tilted his head. "But I have a different opinion." "Which is?" "That you've been punished enough. That destroying a man completely serves no purpose except satisfying ego." He glanced at Adrian's mother, still crying quietly between the guards. "And that your mother doesn't deserve to suffer for your mistakes." Adrian's heart was hammering. "I don't understand. I know you don't, but you will." Lucien stood, walked back toward his own car. "Here's what's going to happen. You and your mother are going to get in that van." He gestured to a third vehicle Adrian hadn't noticed, parked in the shadows. "And my people are going to drive you to the Canadian border. You'll cross tonight. Tomorrow morning, you'll board a flight to somewhere far away. Europe, Asia, South America. I don't care. But you'll disappear, completely. You'll never come back to this country. You'll never contact anyone from your old life. You'll never speak your real names again." "Why?" Adrian's voice was hoarse. "Why would you do this?" "Because my wife is brilliant and ruthless and absolutely right about 99% of things. But this," Lucien turned back, his eyes hard, "this is the 1% where she's wrong. You're not a threat anymore. You're broken. And breaking you further serves no one." Serafina will be furious when she finds out. But she'll get over it. Because I'm going to tell her the truth. That I let you go not as an act of mercy, but as a demonstration of strength. That we're powerful enough to destroy you and generous enough not to. That letting you live in exile is a better message than killing you or imprisoning you. He paused. "She won't like it, but she'll understand it." Adrian's throat was tight. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything, just listen." Lucien's voice dropped, went quiet and dangerous. "This is the only chance you're going to get. If you ever come back, if you ever try to contact Serafina or anyone connected to our families, if you ever speak about what happened here, I will find you. And I will kill you so slowly that you'll beg for death long before I grant it. Do you understand?" "Yes." "Say it." "I understand. I'll disappear. I'll never come back." "Good." Lucien gestured to the guards. "Cut him loose. Both of them." The zip ties came off. Adrian rubbed his wrists, feeling blood flow back into his hands. One of the guards helped his mother over to him. She collapsed against his chest, still crying. "It's okay, Mom. It's going to be okay." "I don't understand what's happening. I'll explain everything later. Right now, we just need to go." Lucien walked to the third van, opened the back doors. "There's money inside, cash, $50,000. Passports, fake, but good quality. Clothes, phones with untraceable SIM cards. Everything you need to start over." Adrian stared at him. "Why are you doing this?" For the first time, Lucien's expression softened slightly. "Because 6 years ago, the woman I was supposed to marry ran away. She chose freedom over duty, love over power. And I spent 6 years angry about that choice. Bitter, convinced she'd made a mistake." He paused. "But when she came back, when she finally agreed to marry me, I realized something. She hadn't made a mistake. She'd done exactly what she needed to do. She'd lived. She'd loved. She'd learned who she really was. And when she came back to me, it wasn't because she had to. It was because she chose to." "I don't see what that has to do with—" "It has everything to do with this. Because you gave her that. You gave her 4 years of being someone else, of experiencing a life outside the one she was born into. And when that life fell apart, when you betrayed her, you gave her clarity. You showed her that the world out there wasn't the fairy tale she'd imagined, that love without power is just vulnerability, that she belonged here, with me, in this life." Lucien's eyes were intense. "So in a twisted way, I owe you. You broke her heart, and in breaking it, you sent her back to me. Not as a frightened girl running from an arranged marriage, but as a woman who'd chosen her path." Adrian didn't know what to say. The rain kept falling. His mother shivered against him. "Go," Lucien said quietly, "before I change my mind. Before Serafina finds out and overrides this decision. You have maybe 2 hours before she realizes you're not where you're supposed to be. Don't waste them." Adrian helped his mother into the van, climbed in after her. The doors closed. The engine started. Through the window, he saw Lucien standing in the rain, watching them leave. The man raised one hand. Not quite a wave, not quite a salute. Just acknowledgement. Then the van turned a corner, and Lucien Etienne disappeared. Adrian sat back, his mother clutching his arm, and tried to process what had just happened. He'd been given his life back. Not the life he'd had, that was gone forever, but a life. A chance to start over. All he had to do was disappear. The drive to the border took 4 hours. His mother fell asleep against his shoulder, exhausted from trauma and confusion. Adrian stayed awake, staring out the window, watching America disappear behind them. The crossing was easier than it should have been. The fake passports worked perfectly. The border agent barely glanced at them before waving them through. On the Canadian side, the van drove to a small airport. Private terminal. A plane waiting. The driver, who hadn't spoken the entire trip, finally turned around. Destination? Adrian thought about it. Somewhere far. Somewhere they'd never be found. Buenos Aires. The driver nodded. Made a call. 30 minutes later, Adrian and his mother were on a plane heading south. His mother woke up as they reached cruising altitude. She looked around, confused, frightened. "Adrian, where are we? What's happening?" He took her hand. "I need to tell you something, and you need to listen to the whole story before you say anything, okay? You're scaring me." "I know, but I need you to trust me." He told her everything. Started with meeting Serafina in college. The lies, the marriage, the betrayal. His own betrayal first, then hers. The revelation of who she really was. The gala, the humiliation, the systematic destruction of his life. Detective Chen, the federal building, the attack. Serafina's final trap, the confession.